everybody. Welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment. We are back on our regular track of types of show, which means the first part of the show here is just the open commentary, just a little chit chat with the live audience while we wait for people to roll on in, and people are, in fact, rolling in. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I see John Morby is here fantasizing about the impossible lens. I see what you wanted. f0.95, 7 to 400 millimeter range, micro four thirds, and weighing under 350 grams, and with Leica glass, and only 8 centimeters long. Ship it. Let's do it. You know that'll probably happen one day, and it won't be glass. It'll be liquid. Liquid that changes the shape of the lens. It'll be crazy stuff like that. We'll see these kind of things happening. It is cool. Sully, you like my intro music? Good. I'm glad you do. I'm digging it too. It's like kind of cool. It's got a little click in there that's part of the track that almost sounds like it's peaking. That sometimes kind of bugs me, but you know, I guess I'll get over it. I probably should record this thing. That's usually how this thing is supposed to work. All right, let's get that set up and in there. And hit record on there. You like my little lineup of lenses here? It's kind of fun. It's going to be fun. All right, who else is going on today? Adrian says, no adverts. Yay. Why no adverts? That's how I make money. What do you mean no adverts? That's not good. We need adverts. Sully, good morning to you. Gear Sight, good morning. Sean Mark Nipper, there you are. Good to see you again this morning. Good seeing you last night, my friend. Mr. Graham Cooper, when does Comey come on? That's been going on for the last, I didn't really think about it, but one of my colleagues said, you should do the MST3K thing over the Comey hearing. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Let's try and keep the politics out of this, at least a little bit. Good eye, Mr. Osho. SRO Digital, good morning to you. Hoping for a review of the 818. It'll happen, but not now, because that lens is sadly not in front of me. I don't have that one yet. But as soon as I get it, I will. I'm really looking forward to that lens. Sully says he wish you had this many lenses. Yeah, it's kind of a lot. A lot of them I don't even use anymore, but no, you can't have them, so don't ask. But it's good for stuff like this. This is going to be fun. Let's see here. Hello from Romania. Very cool. I think that might be the first. Kurti, have you been in before? That might be the first time I've heard Romania come up. That is awesome. West Media, good morning from Greece. Adrian, I thought our politics in the UK was boring. Yours has been on for hours. Our politics are... That's one thing you can say about this this presidency. It ain't boring. Salman, good morning to you. And IC Entertainment, voting day in the UK. Can you vote for us, please? Can you, like, throw in a... vote our, never mind. Adult democracy, yeah, or idiocracy, or one of the two. Okay, shall we do this thing? Let's get this thing started. We got a nice live lineup coming in already this morning. Always nice to see that. And I expect a lot of people are actually watching something else live that's probably far more important, but hey, what are you gonna do? All right. Let's get this thing started. I'm going to go out to my title screen, come back, and by the way, this is going to be a two-parter show. We're going to do the commentary on this one. So, yeah, so we'll get into that in a moment. Here we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first live daily show on YouTube, on photos and videos and things that are photo-related. Basically, as I said on a podcast once, if it goes through a lens, we can talk about it. And that's the way it goes. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We are live, of course. If you are watching live, you are participating in the chat room. That is fantastic. I love you guys sitting in the chat. If you have questions about what we're doing today, pop that into the chat room. Make sure you type @PhotoJoseph in front of it so I see the little red banner on my screen. I know that it's a question for me. If you don't, I won't see it, so you got to do that. And if you really, really want to get my attention, there is that little $ thing hovering down there. That is the Super Chat button. You click the Super Chat and I definitely get your message. If you're not watching this live, of course, you can comment in the comments afterwards, and I will do my best to respond to them at some point or another. So good morning, everybody. Welcome for those who are here live. I appreciate you coming in live. There is something else kind of big and important happening live right now, so might be taking away some of my audience, but I think we're doing all right. So today's show is actually going to be a kickoff of a series that will probably go essentially indefinitely about individual lenses. And I kind of have a lot of lenses. It's a problem. But I got a lot of really cool Micro Four Thirds glass here. Most of this is Panasonic glass. I definitely have some that are not Panasonic glass. That is the majority of what I have. For anybody watching this who's never been here before, doesn't know who I am a LUMIX luminary, which means I'm sponsored by Panasonic, which means that a lot of this stuff is on loan to me from Panasonic. So don't just think I'm like crazy and go out and buy everything. Some of these are mine, some of these are Panasonics, but they're here. And And so also what that means is that while I'm not as inclined to jump onto third-party lenses in the process of doing this review of, not review, yeah, kind of review, whatever, overview, analysis, whatever you want to call it, of individual lenses, I will get into some third-party ones, especially the ones that don't have overlap with Panasonic lenses. Those are the ones I'm most likely to jump into. For example, the one of my favorite third-party lenses, this Zhongyi Speedmaster 25mm f/0.95 lens. Panasonic doesn't make one of these, so that makes it totally legit and open season for me to play with, and I do love this lens. So I thought what we do today is have a bit of an overview of the lenses that I've got, the lenses that we can discuss, and then I can start going into individual lenses. I don't know if it's going to be one a week, one every couple weeks, whatever, we'll see how the schedule goes. But individual lenses, and we can do it largely by request. What lenses do you want to see more about? And then I can do a whole thing around that. And doing a whole thing around it isn't going to be just me holding up a lens and saying, it's a lens. I'm not going to Vanna White this thing. I will go out and shoot some stuff with that lens and try to shoot things that are germane to that lens. This lens, like this one here, it's obviously a big telephoto zoom. This is designed for sports and things that are far away, birding, stuff like that. I will try to go out and shoot some of that. Obviously, I'm not every type of photographer there is, but I will do my best to show what the lens is capable of in its designated environment, if that makes sense. Clearly, some lenses are general purpose, so for everything. Some are a little bit more specific. So we'll I'll mix it up a bit, but that's the idea. So after we get past today, I want to hear from you guys what lenses you want to hear about, which ones you want to get your eyes on, as it were. I will be starting, though, with this one. This is the 100 to 400 Leica, and the reason I'll be starting with this is because I don't have this for very long. This one is only going to be in my possession for a few weeks, so I'm going to have to, it just came yesterday, so I'm going to have to do some playing with that pretty quick. So we'll do that one first. So let's just talk about the lenses that we've got. Again, if you do have a question about the lenses, pop it into the live chat, put @PhotoJoseph in front of it. If you've got a question about anything else that's not about the lenses, try and hold on to it. We will, at the end of the show, we will do our false ending, and then we'll come back for the commentary. So if you're watching this live, stick around through the false ending. If you are watching this recorded, at the end of the show, at the end of this video, there will be a link to the next video, which is the commentary, which is a bit more open discussion. Sound good? Everybody good with that? Excellent. Sounds like fun. Let's just see what is going on in the comments real quick here. Morning, everybody. We had SRO Digital always said some things. Is it just the 2 live photo moments today, or are we having several sneaky unscheduled ones like yesterday? Well, that was unexpected yesterday. So yesterday I did my scheduled photo moment, and then with the Mevo, which was super cool, but there were problems with the broadcast. That we had that gray bar again. The folks from Livestream were actually watching it, emailed me right after and said, hey, try this build. It should solve the gray bar problem. So I did a second one, tried it. The gray bar problem was better, but it was still there. So just helping them to find these bugs and squash them. And then I did a little mini live thing from my Mevo right before I went live. It was a big live day yesterday with Mac Fun. So if you missed that, the Mac Fun thing was a kind of a interview, chit chat, show some of my workflow, some Mac Fun tools. We did on their Facebook page. So if you go to facebook.com and search for Mac Fun's page, you'll find it there. And actually, it's probably still linked on my PhotoJoseph page as well. John Morby is asking me which firmware is on the 100 to 400. Someone asked a while ago if you could demo a firmware update. That's one of the few that have new firmware. So I don't know, because I haven't even attached this to the camera yet, and so I will have to check that. But I did do a firmware update video. You remember that I did one on how to do when I did the one on the Vlog update. When I did the Vlog update one, that included a firmware update. It was for the body, not for the lens, but it works exactly the same. So we'll link to that up here. If you are curious how to do a firmware update, you'll want to click on that link, watch that video, and it'll take you through the whole process. It's a bit of a, like all these, it's not a 2-minute tutorial, it's a lengthy discussion, but you do see it in there. And let's see what else. We'll go ahead and bring these up right now. Adrian says, Laowa 24mm f/14 2x macro lens is a strange lens. Okay, now I have to look this up. This is the fun stuff about this. I learn about lenses. And this is one of the really cool things about Micro Four Thirds. There are so many lenses made by other companies that I've never heard of, that a vast majority of us have never heard of, and I think it's fantastic. That's one of the really cool things about this format, that you can have lenses from so many different manufacturers. Canons and Nikons, you get a pretty limited range of third-party lenses, but all kinds of crazy stuff shows up from Micro Four Thirds, which is really, really cool. So you are, let's see if it's on B&H. You said LAOWA 24mm macro. I'm just going to type that in. Let's see what it gets. Laowa 15 millimeter f4. No, that's not it. All right, let me just search Google for it. So what was it? LAOWA 24 millimeter macro. That is F14 replay. Here we go. Here's an article. Oh, it's a digital rev video or digital rev article. What is this? Okay, that is definitely a weird one. What the heck is that? It looks like a stylus for your iPad. What in the world? What do you do with this thing? Venus Optics. Okay, what kind of photos? Is it super macro? Are we going to get any pictures through it? I don't understand. Those are pictures from it. Okay, I don't get it. What's the point of this lens? Other than being the weirdest lens on the market today? Okay, maybe I'll have to read that article. That the snorkel lens, Sully says. Yeah, I don't know what that is. That is super bizarre. What is it for? Adrian, tell me what that thing's for. I have no idea. Graham Cooper, good morning again. I already have some Olympus Micro Four Thirds lenses on an Olympus body, no GH5, but will the GH5 allow in-body stabilization using these when shooting 4K video? Superb question, my friend. Yes. Absolutely. That's one of the really cool things about having in-body stabilization is it doesn't matter what lens you put onto it. So if you put on a lens that has no stabilization, like this all-mechanical lens here, the Zhongyi one, you still get in-body stabilization on the GH5. If you put a lens on that's not Panasonic that does have stabilization, I think it will still take advantage of it, not to the degree that it would if it was a Panasonic lens, but I could be wrong on that. So if I'm wrong, maybe somebody in the chat will tell me. I don't have any third-party stabilized lenses. I had one for a while that was on loan from Sigma. Sadly, I never really did anything with it before I had to send it back, unfortunately, but it had stabilization and I never did find that out. I never did look to compare that, so I'm sorry. But if it's, regardless of what it is, mechanical, totally mechanical, non-stabilized lens on the GH5, you will get stabilization, which is really, really cool. Very, very cool. Okay, guys, there's already all kinds of questions coming by. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna come back to the chat. Let's just go through the overview of what we've got here and then dive into some of these questions that are coming up. So we'll start with the lens that I am going to work with first, and that's the 100 to 400. So this is the new one of the newest lenses from Panasonic. This is the Leica. I thought I had, oh yeah, it's got, oh that's interesting. Like I said, I just took this out of the box. And I didn't do an unboxing because it's not a nice box. This is a box that's been shipped around the country about 500 times. So it's got its own little bit of a lens shade on there, but then I guess it comes with a much larger lens shade, which you can attach on and pops off. I like any lens shade that's got any kind of locking mechanism because these things come off way too easily. So this one, the 100-400 has got the screw lock. The 42.5 millimeter f1.2, that's the Nocticron, also has the screw lock. And then, of course, the new 12-60 Leica has a push-release lock button on there that locks that into place, which is quite good. So 100 to 400. So this is 100 to 400 variable aperture from, what is this thing again? It's 4 to 5.6, I think, is that right? Yeah, 4 to 6.3. And now, remember, every lens that we talk about, the numbers we talk about here, you got to double to get 35 mil full frame equivalent. So this is a 200 to 800 millimeter equivalent lens. It's a long lens. And I can speak, because I have used this before, I can speak from firsthand that this on the GX8, have not yet put it on the GH5, this on the GX8, handheld, even all the way out at 400, so 800 millimeter equivalent, is completely usable. Handheld, 800 millimeter is a phenomenal thing to be able to do. I did this thing at the LA Zoo with Paul's Photo down in LA, obviously, last year, October, whatever. And it was a kind of, it's a really fun event. If you live in the LA area, check out Paul's Photo. They do this do this event every year. I don't remember what year this was. Fun bit of trivia, I used to work at Paul's Photo when I was in high school a long time ago. I worked at Paul's Photo. Anyway, so I did this event with them, and this was a event where they set up tables from all the manufacturers. The manufacturers sent out reps, so Canon, Nikon, pretty much everybody had a table there full of gear. So I'm out there with another Panasonic rep. We got a table full of gear, and the people who are attending can borrow anything they want to go out and shoot with it, go out and try it. It was really fun. And as you would expect, a lot of Nikon Canon shooters, and they're borrowing the big 600 f4 type lenses, you know, these monstrous beasts. And it was so much fun to walk up next to these guys that are shooting the Tigers or whatever, and they got their monopod and their huge lens. And I walk up with my GX8 and this guy, handheld, and I go, what focal length? 600, 800, look, handheld, stabilized, click, look at the shot. They're going, what the what? That was really fun. That was really fun. Now, obviously, there's other advantages to those huge lenses, shallower depth of field and so on, but it was just a fun thing to do. And even at 6.3 at 800 millimeter, you're still getting shallow depth of field. Don't think that 6.3 means you don't get shallow depth of field. You still do, because things are so compressed. And anyway, we'll take a look at it. So great lens, that's one we'll be starting with. I've got this one here, which is an older one, which unless there's a request to, I won't do anything with this. This has been updated. There's a Mark II of this lens. If someone really wants to know about it, I'll gladly request it. But this is the 100 to 300 millimeter f4 to 5.6. So similar to this, but 100, 300, 100, 400, both start at f4. This goes to 5.6, this goes to 6.3. Physically smaller, as you can see, but the big thing is this is Leica, so really, really high quality, high-end glass. This is a lower cost, lower end lens that's not quite as sharp. It's still got built-in stabilization. The new one is probably, I mean, it's obviously going to be better than this one, because it wouldn't come out with a new one if there wasn't. But this is a good lens if you need long focal length, but you don't have the money to spend on this. But always remember, one thing I like to point out, unless you need to own it, if you want a lens like this, or you want this lens and you need it for a weekend event, rent it. Remember, you can always rent the gear. If you can't afford to buy it, or you just don't need to buy it, you can always rent gear, and that is a really, really good way to go to do things. And I know that rental's not available for everybody all over the world, but if it is available for you where you live, then do consider that. It's also a great way to try things out. So this is the 35 to 100 f2.8. That's the fixed f2.8 35 to 100, so 70 to 200 equivalent. This is one of those mainstay lenses. If you're doing video work, you probably want this lens. I've used this one for years and years. I love this lens. This is the original Mark I. Maybe at some point, maybe when I do these lenses, I'll request the Mark II so we can get some time with the newest ones. But that's the 35 to 100, and then its matching brother here is the 12 to 35. So you got 12 to 35, 35 to 100. So 12 to 100 or 24 to 200 equivalent zoom, all at f2.8 all the way through. Fantastic, fantastic pair. If you're doing professional video work, this is pretty much a mainstay. You gotta have these in your kit. All right, so we got those. And then, let's see, I guess we'll do I don't know what order we're doing these in. The 12 to 60, so this is the one that is the new 12 to 60 Leica. I won't look at the inexpensive non-Leica one. I don't really care to work with that, but this 12 to 60 Leica one is a beautiful lens. This is the one that in some countries you get as a kit lens with the GH5, and it is, this has been a very good lens for me. I was surprised at how much I've liked this lens, and anybody who's been watching my GH5 coverage since the beginning knows that I have been very pleasantly surprised with this lens. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I do. It is variable aperture, f2.8 to 4, which is one of the reasons that I didn't think I would like it as much, but it has turned out to be a great, great all-purpose lens. So if you're figuring out what your first or only lens should be, this is a really good choice to go with. And then, let's see here, let's do more zooms and then go to the fixed. I've got to find them. No, not that one. I do have another, no, which one am I looking for? Here we go, that's what I'm looking for. This is another 35 to 100. So, yeah, where do we go? 35 to 100, I'm gonna take off the lens cap so we get a proper assessment of the size comparison. 35 to 100 f2.8, 35 to 100 f4 to 5.6. Obviously a lot slower, not as good low light performance, not as shallow depth of field, but same focal length. Look at the size difference between these guys. This lens, I got this one mainly out of curiosity. How good could a lens like this be, being so small? How much would I miss the shallow depth of field? Probably less for video work, but more for stills. This one does not have, this one does not have stabilization. This one has it built in. But again, on the GH5, you'll get some on this. But this isn't a lens you'd put on your GH5. This is a lens you put on a smaller camera like the GX85 when you want to have a longer focal length lens. You don't want to carry this huge thing around, and I realize that's ridiculous to call this huge, but comparatively speaking, it is. If you are traveling, maybe you're doing personal work, you're just on a vacation, you want to have a long lens in your bag, but you don't want to carry this, you want to have it just in case, this is a great, great little lens. I think that if you were to travel with this and another couple of really short little, we'll come to this one, little pancake lenses like this, you could have a tiny, tiny little basket of gear that would cover all the focal lengths, maybe not be as fast as some of the other lenses, but would give you really good coverage. And so this, I've always been really impressed with this lens. It's so small, so lightweight, and it is a great focal length. And I don't have prices right now for everything, but we will be linking these in the show notes below. So if you're watching this live, they're not there. If you're not watching it live, shortly later today, shortly after it goes, we're done, we'll have all that in there, the complete lens lineup, and you'll be able to check pricing. I don't know all of them offhand though, sorry. But I really like this lens. Really nice little guy. Okay, so that's, get on there, that's that one. There we go. And let's see, any other zooms? I think the rest of these are, oh, this one here. Right, so then there's the 7 to 14. I've been talking about this one a bit lately because this is what I use for real estate. 7 to 14, so 14 to 28 millimeter equivalent. F4, so not super fast, but it is sharp. It is aspherical. You can see that massively bulbous lens on there. It has aspherical anti-distortion, I guess you'd call it. So minimizing the distortion, not eliminating it completely, but if you, and I always say, if you keep that camera true, if you're shooting interiors or buildings, whatever, if you keep that camera totally perfectly vertical, you will have very, very straight lines. It's really quite remarkable what you can get out of this lens. So that is a beautiful lens. I use this a lot for my real estate. Now, there is the new 8 to 18 f2.8, is that right? So it's faster, it's Leica, it's sharper, it's a better quality lens. I am looking forward to getting that, and I will be able to do a comparison on there. Obviously, the Leica one is going to cost more, but this is a great, really wide field of view lens if you need that sort of thing. Okay, that's all the zooms, yeah? Yeah. Okay, let's take a quick look at comments, and then we'll come back to the fixed focal length lenses. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Let's see here, where are we? John Morby, that was the firmware question. We already did that. Scott Colesby says, Colesby says, planning to buy my first 25 millimeter. Is the 1.4 worth the 350, worth the difference over the f1.7? Well, the 25 1.4, that's right here. That is a Leica lens, right? Make sure is that right? Yeah, that's a Leica lens. So it is going to be a sharper lens, better optics. Obviously a little bit faster, but not massively. What is that, a half a stop or something faster? I don't know. I haven't used the 1.7, so I can't really say how good it is or isn't. I would look at reviews. Obviously, you get a little bit shallower depth of field. I would really look at the reviews. That would be what I'd have to say. See if people are really happy with the 1.7. See if it's really, really sharp. That's a pretty good price difference. So that's something to consider. Also remember, if you don't need autofocus, there is something like the third-party 25mm f0.95. So this I do know the price on. This one's $400, $399. So that, if you don't mind being all mechanical, manual focus only, it's a really cool lens. It does have a different look. The bokeh is different. The chromatic aberration is different. You get a little color fringing in there that all just kind of lends to the look of this lens. But I like it. So hopefully that's a reasonable answer to that question. Scrolling madness. Okay, Shiva Kumar says, unfortunately, rental market for micro four thirds cameras and lenses in India is very nascent. Everyone opts and suggests Canon glass with metabones. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so that's why I prefaced it by saying regions. I know it's not really, rental market's not everywhere. You don't have that option everywhere, unfortunately. All righty. Interesting. Terever says that's odd. India is a massive producer of films and cinema equipment. That makes no sense. Huh. Well, yeah, I've never lived or really worked in India other than a few little business trips, so I can't really speak to that. SRO Digital says, don't be oohing about the 100 to 400. I decided to go recently for the latest 100 to 300 instead of the 100 to 400. I'm sure it is a fabulous lens. I'm sure it is. It's just, this is the Leica, and it's a longer focal length. What can I say? I'll try not to make it look too good when I review it. All right, that's that. Okay, cool. Let's go back to this. Let's actually, before we go on to there, we are going to talk about a couple of things. Later on today at 3, I don't know. I don't remember what time. You'll have to check the calendar. I'm doing another live session for Affinity Photo. So this is back to Mac OS, Affinity Photo for Mac OS. This is on live and not live filters. So this is going to be the next session. So this is session 5 in the series on Affinity Photo. So do tune in for that live if you can. If you can't see it live, then it will be available for a fee for download, or if you are a paid member of the photoapps.expert website, then you can watch it streaming for no additional cost at any time. So if you want to see it for free, then you got to watch it live. It's the only way to get it totally for free. So I got to make a living somewhere along the way. And also, because I've neglected to talk about this for a while, I don't know why I keep forgetting, is the Cinemagraph Pro latest podcast for the Photo Apps podcast. This is my podcast on photo apps, and what we do here is we have a little chit chat with the developer or representative from the company. They do a demo showing off their product, and we get to see how it works. And that was actually like 3 weeks ago because we had to skip one. Long story. Anyway, that is up right now. It's on YouTube. It's also on iTunes. I would please encourage you to subscribe in iTunes. Go to Photo Apps. Go to the iTunes podcast store or whatever it's called, And just search for Photo Apps Podcast or search for PhotoJoseph and you'll find it. And we do have a nice lineup of episodes coming up in the near future. I actually have 1 week coming up. I'm recording four sessions and 4 interviews in one day. But in 1 week. But that's good. We're going to fill up the coffers. Okay, and we'll talk about some other stuff later. So let's see here. Live training is at 1 p.m. Thank you very much, Ryan. That means I have to eat lunch. Gotta make sure I'm ready for it. So you go 1 p.m. Pacific time if you want to watch that live training. Okay. Anything else in the comments before we move on to this? Let's see here. John Morby says, you can't update the firmware. Okay, I don't know which lens you're talking about. On the Mark 1 isn't weather sealed, but otherwise reports I hear say probably not worth upgrading at the moment. I'm going to assume that you're talking about the 12, let's see here, yeah, I see there's a comment up here. I own the original 12 to 35 at 2.8. Is an upgrade to the Mark II worth it? Okay, that's a really good question. So we've got the 35 to 100 f2.8 and the 12 to 35 f2.8. These are the original Mark I, if you will, lenses. They're called HD lenses. They were designed as video lenses, very good quality, yada yada yada. Lovely lenses, right? These are the ones I said mainstay in your camera kit if you're a videographer, especially. Is it worth upgrading to get the Mark II? So there's 2 primary advantages to the Mark II lenses. 3 if you count the lenses being black instead of this funky metallic blue thing advantage. One of them is the newer stabilization. So you get better in lens stabilization with the new versions of these lenses than you do with these. The stabilization that's in here is very good. Combine it with the GH5, it's even better than very good. You get another, what I have been told is a half to a full stop extra stabilization with the new versions of the lens. So if that interests you, then yes, it's worth it. The secondary thing is improved weather sealing. These are still weather sealed, but not as much as the new ones. The new ones have improved weather sealing. So if you are shooting in nasty, nasty weather, or you want that extra stop, half stop to stop of image stabilization, then it's worth upgrading. If you don't need either of those things, then don't upgrade. Keep on to these lenses, spend your money on something else like this. So there's my advice for that. SR Digital says there's been a comment that the Mark lenses, I don't know if that meant to be Mark 1 or Mark 2, lens focus is better. SRO Digital, please confirm whether you're talking about Mark 1 or Mark 2. Hopefully you're talking about Mark 2. And Alex Undersay, I cheated. I borrowed a Sony the other day. I instantly missed my G7 and flip screen and ergonomics. Well, ergonomics, I would say, is something you just get used to. You know, it's Canon and Nikon, there's like wars over which have better ergonomics. Clearly, it's what you're used to. I think you can get used to anything, unless it's just frankly bad ergonomics, which is possible, obviously. But the flip-out LCD, yeah, man, that's not something I can give up. No. And the touch, it's so cool. Okay, all right, let's get into these fixed focal length lenses. All right, so first up, your mainstay, 25mm f1.4 Leica. There's also the 1.7 on the market, which is considerably less expensive and non-Leica. The 25mm is a 50mm equivalent, so that would be your nifty 50. You've probably heard that term before. That's a focal length that everybody should have. Now, whether you cover that in a zoom lens like the 12 to 35, wherever it went, like the 12 to 35 or the 12 to 60, this is a mainstay focal length. And the reason for that is it is essentially equivalent to what the human eye sees. If you hold up a camera with a 25, let's just call it 50mm equivalent lens, open both eyes, everything is about the same size. They line up, or, give or take a fraction of a millimeter or whatever, but it's basically the same size. So that is a mainstay lens. Everyone should have a nifty 50 in their bag. And again, like I said, whether you're covering with a zoom or with a fixed is something you should have. Now, the advantage of obviously having a fixed one is it's a smaller lens. Not that much smaller. Let's take off the lens shade. It's not that much smaller than the 12 to 35, but it is smaller. So if that is a concern, if you want to have that really lightweight little lens, then it's worth considering. So that is something that pretty much everybody should have, that focal length. Next, I'm going to bring up the, where'd it go? Did I leave a lens out there? No, that's not it. Oh, no, there it is. Sorry, hiding behind another lens. The 15mm f1.7. So this is another Leica lens. Let's take off the shade, and that's the full size. And I'm sorry that I don't have a close-up camera here set up today. Anyway. This is, for me personally, I actually prefer this focal length to the 50. But the reason that I say everybody should have this is because it is so versatile, and especially if you're learning photography, this is a really, really good focal length to have. Because it is equivalent to what you see, it is a great lens to understand how photography works, to get used to shooting, and so on and so on and so on. This is just a really, really good lens to have. But I personally prefer the Leica 15mm. I like this focal length, so it's a 30mm equivalent. And this is the f1.7. This is a beautiful lens. I really, really like this lens. And you can see how small it is. I mean, this is really small compared to this. It's small, it's lightweight. It's got this funky metal lens hood that is always on for me. It actually even comes with, I didn't bring it in here, a lens cap that fits over this. And this is a mainstay for me. I don't go anywhere without this lens. This is an absolute must for me. But if you don't like this focal length, right, if 30mm isn't for you, then obviously you don't need it. But this is an absolute favorite lens for me. I use this for street photography a lot. I like that wider field of view for street photography, having to get up close and personal to things. This is a great lens. So there's that one. I'm a huge, huge fan of that one. Okay, let's see here. Let's kind of work our way up in focal length. How's that sound? It doesn't really make sense. I went there, I went down. We're going to keep going down, then we're going to go back up. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. This, the pancake lens, not a particularly fancy lens, nothing spectacular. This is a 14mm f2.8, I think, 2.5. So 28mm equivalent. So a good standard wide field of view lens, super tiny. You thought the 15 was small, look at this thing. Really, really small. This is what you'd call a pancake lens. It is pretty sharp. It's not the sharpest lens of the bunch. It's not a Leica. It's relatively inexpensive. If you need that wide focal length and you don't want to spend a bunch of money, this is a way to go. If you do want to spend a bunch of money, then there is it 14? No, what is it? There's another Leica that's really wide that is much faster and sharper, but I don't have. I'm going to have to get that one for this review lineup as well. Now I'm totally forgetting what the focal length is. No, it's not 14. It's a 24. The 24-1... 1412. Somebody will tell me in the chat what that is. I know it's a gorgeous lens. I don't have it. So anyway, so sorry, that's 24. So this is 14. So back to the 14. I don't know if there's anything else from Panasonic that is a sharper, other than the 8 to 14 zoom, that is a sharper, better optic lens than this. There's probably third-party ones out there. Something to look into. If you need that really wide field of view, this is what I've got. I almost never use this lens. This is the one that I used when I did the car vlogging video, put my G7 mounted upside down against the windshield. We'll link to that video here. That was kind of funny as my illegal car vlogging setup, because after I did the video, I found out that it's actually illegal in most states to mount things to your windshield. I don't know how many people actually care, but you know, we must state the law. But it's a good wide field of view. You know, if you don't need super shallow depth of field, or if you want a lot of depth of field, good lens to work with. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to this one next. We'll save the non-Panasonic ones for last. We'll push those off to the side. All right, let's go, which includes that, not this. Let's go to this one, and then this one, and then these. There we go. Haha, we have an order now. We have a plan. This is the 42.5mm f1.7 next to, let's get the shade off of this, you can totally see the size comparison, next to the 42.5mm f1.2. This is the Leica, the Nocticron lens, built-in stabilization. Gorgeous. This is, like, I call this lens the money lens, and not because it's expensive, but it is. It's like $1,800 or something. But this lens is gorgeous. This is an incredible, incredible lens. I love this lens. If I had to choose two lenses, the 15mm f1.7 and the Nocticron. These would be my two. If I had to go out with two, it's these two. Love, love, love these two lenses. Super sharp, super fast, super shallow depth of field, incredible optics, even in wide open at f1.2, very sharp. It's an incredible piece of glass. So there's this. Now, if this is not in your price range, but you like the focal length, you have this guy, the 42.5mm, same focal length, f1.7. So you're talking about a comparison equivalent to these guys, right? So if you've got money to spend and or need/want the best, you got these guys, right? Your 35-100 f2.8, your 42.5mm f1.2 Nocticron lens. If you have neither the money nor the need for these higher end lenses, you've got the same focal lengths, a little bit slower, non-Leica, no in-lens stabilization, but these are both great lenses. Good focal lengths, sharp, plenty easy to work with, plenty good lenses to work with, just not the best that's available, but at a significantly lower price. So I really like that. I like that we have these options from Panasonic directly, that you can buy the better, faster, more expensive, sharper lens, or you do have something that is equivalent focal length, but less in all the other regards. And that's great because not everybody needs the biggest, baddest, fastest, most expensive thing. For a lot of us, this is perfectly fine, and maybe even a better lens for you, right? This is heavy. This is a heavy lens. Again, relatively speaking, to other manufacturer stuff, this is a relatively heavy lens. This lens is nothing. So you take like these two lenses, and look at this. So if you want a like super travel kit, let's go for the super lightweight travel kit. Let's do super lightweight, inexpensive travel kit. Let's do that. Actually, you probably wouldn't need both of these. No, you do, because you want that shallow depth of field. All right, so you go for that. How's that for a lineup? 14 millimeters, so 28 millimeter equivalent, 70 to 200 equivalent, and a 90 mil portrait lens equivalent. Maybe you want to squeeze a 50 in there. If you don't mind, that becomes the biggest lens of the bunch. That becomes your 50 for the really sharp shots that you want if you're into that type of focal length. Or if you want to spend the money and go for the 15, a little bit lighter, smaller, wider field of view, sharper, but also physically smaller. I mean, how's that for a lens lineup? 4 lenses. That's kind of cool, right? I mean, you pair that with something like a GF85, super lightweight body, and you've got everything you need for every type of photography in a bag. You could literally drop these into your jacket pocket, right? You're going out for dinner for the night, you've got a little camera slung over your shoulder, you want to take an extra lens, you can drop this into your sports coat pocket, right? It's incredible. I love that. I love that we have these options. Love it. Okay. So that was that. We talked about the Nocticron. Get rid of that. Nocticron again, amazing, gorgeous lens. Now let's go macro. We got 2 macro lenses here. These are the 2 macros that Panasonic makes. You've got the 30 millimeter f2.8 and the 45 millimeter f2.8. So same aperture, longer. So that's a 60 and a 90 millimeter equivalent. I think the 45 focuses more closely. Let me see, half a meter. 0.5 no, this does 0.1. This focuses more closely. We'll have to do a little side-by-side on these. Obviously, I haven't done that. 30 is not Leica, right? This one is Leica, right? 45 is a Leica lens. It's physically heavier. It has in-lens stabilization. It's got the hardware switches on the side to swap the stabilization on and off, as well as full or limited focal length. You've got that on there. And this one has no switches on it, right? And yeah. It's closer. I don't know. We're gonna have to compare to see which one focus is closer. I'm starting to think this one does because it says 0.1. Yeah, 0.1 meter. This one says 0.5 meter. Yeah. Well, there. Yeah. Oh no 0.15. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Sorry, I'm making this up as I go. 45 millimeter has 2 positions. You got full and you got limited. Full focal length 0.15 meters. Your closest. This was 0.105 meters. So barely closer with this lens. But given that this is 45 millimeter, you can get physically closer, but you can then fill it with a frame more. So this is going to allow you to be closer to your subject. There you go. That's a really nice lens. They're both great lenses, but this is really nice. Another thing about this 45, so it's very similar to the Nocticron in focal length, right? 42.5 millimeter, 45 millimeter, 85, 90 millimeter equivalent. Obviously slower at f2.8 versus f1.2, but this, even though it's a macro lens, makes a beautiful portrait lens. This is a very sharp lens. It's relatively shallow depth of field if you're getting, especially if you're getting tight and close to your subject. And if you need a all-purpose longer focal length lens, you could do worse than getting this one. This would be a good choice for you. So if you like macro, obviously it's going to cost more than something like the 42.517. I think that's it. It's going to cost more than this, but it is Leica. It's not as much as the Nocticron. It is the equivalent focal length, a bit slower, not as low light performance, not as shallow depth of field, but still quite shallow, and you get the added advantage of being able to focus through things up to 0.15 meters close, which is apparently 0.5 feet, so 6 inches. That's pretty good. So there's that. So your 2 macro lenses. And then there's the non-Leica, non-Panasonic stuff. So there's Yongyi 25 millimeter f0.95 I've already talked about. I adore this lens. So in reality, when I travel, it's really like this is what I pretty much will go out with, right? These are my 3. Got my 15 mil, 25, 42 and a half. So 30, 50, 90. Those are my 3 lenses. Yep, those are my 3. Okay, and then the macros. All right, and then so this is Yongyi, and then other non stuff. This is, I've shown this once before. This is a fun little lens. This is made by Olympus. This is a body cap lens. It is the size of a body cap. It is a 15mm f8, so very slow. It doesn't focus. It has a fixed focal position. You either go 0.3 meters, so 1 foot focal length, or out to infinity. So basically, unless you're doing something up close, you set it to the infinity, and everything's in focus. So obviously not shallow depth of field, the polar opposite of shallow depth of field. Not a massively sharp lens by any guess. I mean, it's, you know, microscopic little lens on there, but it's super lightweight. It's plastic all over, right? But it's cute, it's fun, it's cheap, and I don't know, I like it. It's a fun little lens. And then there's these what are they called? C-mount? What are these guys called again? These Russian lenses that I bought, and I never did get the right body mount for them except for this one. I need to get more body mounts. It's on my list of things to do. I will get to that. But this is one of the cool things. The only reason I really brought this out was to point out that you can buy these crazy lenses, old vintage stuff, that's not natively micro four thirds, but then with the correct adapter, which I have neglected to buy the correct one for those lenses, but with the correct adapter, you can then put this onto your micro four thirds camera. And the advantages of these are you get funky lenses with funky looks to them. These are not the sharpest optics in the world. That's not the point. The point is that they have unique looks to them. The point is that you get something totally different. You can get a filter type effect without putting a filter on there. You get some cool vintagey smearing, lens flaring stuff going on that's a lot of fun to play with. These lenses are so weird. The aperture, you have to like hold the focus and then move the aperture, which is super weird, but whatever. At least shoot wide open. Focus on there. You need to have a camera with focus peaking, which of course all the Lumix cameras do when you're in manual so that you can actually focus and see what's in focus. But these things are fun. They're just a riot. Look at how tiny these are, right? I forget what these even are. What is this thing? A 50mm. See, like that says 50mm. It actually says 5 centimeters. And I still haven't quite figured out what the actual focal length will be. If it can't possibly be a 100mm lens, so I don't even know. We'll find out whenever I get these things hooked up. Okay. That's the lineup there. That's what we're going to look at. Let's see what's going on in the comments, and then we'll our questions, and we'll see what's going off to the. We'll jump out and go back to the other commentary. Okay. SRO Digital says there has been comment that the Mark 1. Oh, Mark 1 lens. That's what you said. Okay. There's been comment that the Mark 1 lens focuses better, quicker. See the Joseph Max focus videos. Aha, that's what you're talking about. Okay. I don't know if Max ever finalized that. When we were doing the test working together. He had the 12 to 35 Mark II, or was it the 70 to 100? 35 to 100. I think it was the 12 to 35. And he was getting better focus performance with the older lens. Now, I actually never followed up with him on that. That clearly shouldn't be the case, so I don't know if there's any more to that story. You should ask on his channel. Ask him if he's gotten more to the bottom of that, but I don't know. I never heard anything else about it, and I never really followed up beyond that, so sorry for that. Brent says, but the menu is far superior on the GH4, GH5, etc. Compared to what, Brent? Complete questions and statements are very, very helpful, you guys. It helps me put things in context because I'm obviously bouncing around all over the place here. Marvin, the Paranoid Android, says, have to agree on ergonomics. Sold my Sony and haven't regretted it, even with the autofocus problems. Maybe, Brent, you're comparing to the Sonys that the menu is far superior on the GH4, GH5. I would agree with that. I've seen their interface, not a fan. And Marvin says, agree on ergonomics. They sold your Sony because, there you go. Excellent to hear. Mushu Media, I like it, says, is something super wide like 8 or 10mm on a micro four thirds sensor, so 16 to 20, do you still the weird morphing when you change the angle of camera? Okay, I think you're talking about when you tilt the camera, if you get distortion. Yes, absolutely. That's why I said even with the 7 to 14 aspherical, if you want truly straight lines, the camera's got to be straight, right? You have to, if this is your subject, the camera's got to be straight, not tilted at a funny angle, or you will get that distortion. So this is one of those things on the Lumix cameras, and this is pretty common on mirrorless cameras. You get a horizon line indicator, so you can see if the camera's tilted any one direction, so you can compensate for that, make sure it's totally straight. Obviously, just watching your edges, making sure they're straight. Also, what I'll suggest is again, I can only speak for the Lumix cameras, but on Lumix cameras, you can turn on or off a grid overlay that's on while you're shooting. I I always have that on because I like to be able to look through and see a horizon line and know that I want it aligned to the horizon or aligned to that vertical line in the building. Way easier and faster than watching the spirit level. It's called spirit level, but the digital spirit level, I just line those lines up. So I would definitely recommend doing that. But yeah, you will still get distortion if you angle the lens up or down, or you get super close to something, you can get distortion. So distortion's still there, absolutely. But a lot of that, you can still correct for some of that in post. Right, if you go into Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever, you can do perspective distortion correction. So if you have to shoot tilted up, right, say you're shooting a building, and to get the whole building, you have to shoot up, because if you're pointing straight out, you're not getting the whole building. So you go straight up, and then you take it into your software, and you correct that distortion. You absolutely can do that, and that works remarkably well. I mean, frankly, it works amazingly well. So something to consider for sure. Sully says, surprised, PhotoJoseph, you don't take advantage of adapting lenses at all, or do you? I have not, and this has been one of those big, people are asking me all the time on here to get into the what are they, I'm forgetting now, to adapting the Canon lenses and Nikons and whatever to them. I will, I promise, I will. I've got so many big projects that I want to work on, and again, you got to keep in mind that I can't dedicate all my time to getting ready for this show, and some of these are the kind of things where I need to spend a lot of time on. But I will get to that eventually. I will. I'm sorry that I haven't done it yet, but I know it's a big popular thing, adapting those big Canons and Nikons to your cameras, to your Lumix cameras. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right, SOR Digital says, have B&H been advised to ramp up server capacity for all the orders this show is generating? That's funny. That'd be great. Please do order. Which, by the way, I'll point this out again. If you're interested in any of these, if you're thinking of buying them, scroll down below. We will eventually have links for all the lenses directly, but there is a generic B&H or Amazon or someone else's link down there, wherever you'd like to shop, if those stores work for you. Adorama, there we go. That was Ryan in my ear. Thank you, Ryan. If you are going to buy from any of those stores, then please use those affiliate links. I would appreciate it. That just, those little affiliate dollars, they're not huge, but they help. Every little bit helps to keep this show on. You know what else helps to keep this show going? The Patreon. So if you haven't looked at that, please do. If you enjoy this show, the ad revenue that comes in from YouTube is like this much. So if you enjoy this show and you want to keep us going, then one way to do that is to click, well, you can't click, but to type in PhotoJoseph.com/ or Patreon.com/PhotoJoseph. That will take you to the Patreon page, and you can contribute as little as $1 every month to help us keep us on the air. And there are some advantages to contribute a little bit more. So if that's something you can afford and want to consider doing, please do. I would appreciate that. Alrighty, let's see here what else we got. Bernardo says, hey, have you ever tested the Voigtlander 0.95 ones? No. So that would be, Voigtlander makes something that is virtually identical to the Zhongyi lens, the 25mm f/0.95. I have not tested theirs. For all I know, they're made by the same people in the same factory. But Voigtlander, is Voigtlander German? Sounds German. I think they're kind of a high-end company, right? I've never worked with their lenses. So maybe theirs is a better lens than this, but I love this lens, man. I mean, I'm telling you, I love this guy. Shiva Kumar says, let's bring this back up. Shiva Kumar says, any plans of taking all the lenses out along with the Mevo and do a small walk testing with a dolly zoom so that some of us can quietly sneak behind a bush? I gotta read these comments before I read them out loud. No, you can't steal my gear. God, you guys, seriously. You don't even know where I live. Oh, wait, my address is on the internet. Dang it. Not my home address, obviously, but the studio address. Okay, Alexander says, recommended SD cards. Okay, we will talk, let's bring that up again when we get into the general Q&A. Mushu Media, brilliant, thank you, recently got my GH5 and loving it. Your channel has been super helpful. Well, you're quite welcome. I am glad. Sully says, help support PhotoJoseph. Yes, please do help support me. I would appreciate that. I have so many ideas of what I could do with this show that would require full-time effort or near full-time or at least full-time for a week or two. But I can't do that without funding. So that's, we're talking a year from now if the channel really grows, if I start getting up into the much higher subscriber levels. I broke 6,000, which is awesome, super duper, thank you for that. But it's kind of like, there's kind of a threshold, like 100,000 is obviously a lot of people to watch me babble on all day long, but that's when some money starts coming in. So yes, Sully, thank you for supporting me on Patreon. I do appreciate that. Scott Colesby says, I believe Max did a second video with Jordan Drake and confirmed the Mark I focused faster. Really? That's very interesting. I will have to ask my Panasonic people about that. Marvin says you still need a UK Amazon link. Okay, Marvin, if you click my Amazon link in the US, doesn't it take you to the UK store? And I think that affiliate passes through. I need to find out. Ryan, please write that down. I need to check in with Amazon about that because I don't know how that works. Curdy says, which of those 2 telephoto lenses do you recommend? I got a lot of telephoto lenses here. Curdy, which one did you mean? Are we talking zoom? Are we talking fixed? Are we talking the Leicas, non-Leicas? Tell me which one you mean, and I will tell you which I recommend. In the meantime, while we're waiting for him to clarify that, let me do this. Wait for that to unlock. And, oops, great, now it wants my password. All right, let's do this. Let's bring this guy up. Let's remind you all about this thing right here, my GH5 training. Still in production, coming along very, very nicely. Like I said the other day, I hope to have the first round of videos available for download for those who have purchased early, available for you this week. My sound engineer is working on them right now, so we'll hopefully have those out to you. And this is a full, complete training course on the GH5. It's at gh5training.com. It is available for pre-order right now until it becomes complete, at which point the price will go up. But it's at pre-order. It's $59 on pre-order. That means that you are getting early access. The video is not yet done, but you'll get access to those videos as they are completed. And then as soon as the entire course is complete, the price will go up to the full price, which is going to be $99. So yeah, so if you're interested in the GH5 training, grab that. And I do like to point out as well, even if you're not shooting with the GH5, I would say probably roughly 80-ish% of the video is valid, even if you're not shooting GH5, if you're shooting Lumix. And probably a good, I don't know, 30 to 50% of it is valid no matter what you're shooting. But, because, when we talk about things like program, aperture, shutter, priority, manual, those kind of things obviously apply to every camera. But as we get into the more nitty-gritty specifics, the functions, of course, are Lumix only, but even then, some of them are Lumix across the board, not GH5 only. So, take a look. You can see the complete chapter listing on that website, gh5training.com, and you can look, and you'll see right there, go, oh, well, my camera doesn't have that feature. Well, it's a GH5 only feature. You go, oh, my camera does that. Well, there you go. And you can learn how to do it on here. And the interface, the modes, the menus, sorry, on the GH5 are essentially the same. Things are in a little bit different order. They're grouped differently in the GH5 because there's so many options. But the actual commands, how you do things, are the same across the entire Lumix lineup. So that's very good. Okay, let's go a couple other finished questions here. So Curdy clarified, the 100 to 400 Leica or the 100 to 300 Panasonic? Well, I mean, obviously I'm going to recommend a 100 to 400 Leica. Not only longer focal length, but it's Leica. You're getting that better glass. It's Panasonic Leica, right? Lumix Leica. It says Lumix, it says Leica. Don't forget that. It is both. So the way that this is done, incidentally, in case you're wondering, is there are the Lumix Leica lenses are made in Panasonic factories, but there are Leica engineers in the factories working with the Panasonic engineers, working, I guess, on designing the lenses. I'm not quite sure how that part works, but ensuring that the optics that come off the line, the optics that go into the lenses, are up to Leica standards. So that's how that is. It's got Leica oversight, Leica engineering, and it is built to Leica standards. So you would get the same quality glass if you're buying a actual Leica red dot lens as opposed to a Panasonic Leica lens. So just something to keep in mind. So they are very, very good quality. Sean Miner says, Voigtlander is a high-end German glass. I thought it was German. Yeah, actually made the first ever zoom lens. No kidding. Oh, that's really cool. Nice little bit of trivia. Okay, well then I would imagine that their 25mm f/0.95 might be a bit sharper, maybe less chromatic aberration, maybe less lens flare, better coatings than the Zhongyi one. Who knows? But like I said, part of the reason I love this lens is the look to it. If this lens was as sharp and neutral as the best Panasonic glass, I probably would be less interested in it. It has a look. It absolutely has a look. I can tell just by looking at the files which ones were shot on this lens. And I like that. I think that's really fun. It's part of the fun of photography. Shiva Kumar says, I think I would like to hear your thoughts on David Marte question about the depth of field and 4K mode of an f2.8 lens on GH4 and the GH5. Okay, that's a bigger thing that I can address right now. Do me a favor, Shiva Kumar, put that, you can just copy and paste it into the comments after the show is over, once the comments open, so that I can address that later. And I'll probably tell you that I'm going to address it in a future show, but if you don't paste it in there, I won't see it because this conversation goes away. So do that, please. Mike Weaver says, I missed the entire broadcast today. Could you recommend, I thought you were going to ask me to start over. Could you recommend a lens that does everything always for every camera in total darkness? As long as you add a flash to your camera, you can do anything you want in any light situation. Becky Gennels, last one, and then we're going to move on to the commentary only because we're pretty much getting into that. Please give us an update on what wireless, okay, strobe, so we're definitely coming to that later. Okay, guys, we are going to take our quick little break here. We're going to end this portion of the show, and we'll come back for the commentary if you're watching live. Stick around. If you're not watching live, then at the end of this, you will see a link to watch the commentary on the video. You know the routine, guys. If you're watching this right now, which obviously you are, you wouldn't be hearing me, click the thumbs up for me. Click that thumbs up. That is awesome. the thumbs up really, really do make a difference. It's not just for fun and games. It really does make a difference on there. I really appreciate your thumbs upping it. If you don't like the video, go for it, thumbs down the thing, but put a comment in there. Tell me why you don't like it. Tell me what it could be doing better, and please be respectful and polite about it. That's all I ask. If you're not nice, I can't promise I won't be either. Yeah, that's it. Do the thumbs up, do the subscribe if you haven't done that. Thanks a bunch, you guys. We'll see you in just a few minutes for the commentary. Bye-bye.